So in this series of videos, I will teach you how to code your first web page using HTML. And in the next module, we will also introduce some elements of styling using cascading style sheets or CSS sheets. Although the sheets is kind of redundant because CSS implies that it's a cascading style sheets, but most people tend to say a CSS sheet anyway. So for now, let's talk about HTML and the basic structure of a web page. We will use this CBC News article as an example. It is an article which was published on September 17, 2020 at 4 a.m., was last updated 35 minutes ago at the time of recording, and it is 10 to 11 a.m. So right there you have an indication in terms of how the CBC website is built, that an article can be published and then updated later, and as a matter of transparency, it will be indicated when an article has been updated. So this is what you see when you visit this website as a reader, as a viewer, because you can actually watch the radio interview. And it's weird to say watch a radio interview, but that's a new trend, or it's a trend which has been going on for quite a few years now. Some radio stations will actually film their hosts doing interviews. That's what CBC did here. And then we can keep going down. We have a graph. We will learn how to do that in the coming weeks, and so on, a map, and so on, an audio interview. It's a pretty long article. So we'll go back to the very top. That's what we see as visitors. Using Google Chrome, and it's very important that you use Chrome. Some other web browsers also have their own inspector tool, but we will be using Chrome as a matter of consistency so that you can follow along when I give you instructions. So we'll right click anywhere on this screen, and then at the very bottom we have two options: view page source or inspect. We'll start with view page source, and voila, those lines of code are actually what's behind the web page. So that's what we see. That's what Google Chrome sees. An HTML document has some standard features. For one, you need to declare your doc type at the very top, because there are other languages such as XML, which is also a marked up language, which those languages use a similar structure. So you need to tell your web browser, hey, Google Chrome, you are reading an HTML document here. And there is also a lang tag so that Chrome knows that the website is in English, EN. If we were on Radio Canada, we might see FR. So here's the first element that your browser sees. Oh, right here, the head. So a web page will have at the very least a head and a body. Most of the elements in the head of your HTML document aren't things that you will see. There is one notable exception: the title, what you need to know about COVID-19 in Ottawa on Thursday, September 17, and that's the title which gets replicated on the tab here. It's different from this title. It's the same now, but we'll see that the title that we actually see on the page and the title displayed by your browser in the tab can be different. In this case, they're the same, but they can be different. So that's where it's located. Right below, we have a bunch of meta elements. The link reel and whatnot will link to your favicon.ico, so your logo. You can link to your CSS style sheets. You can add a description. You can add keywords which will be detected by search engines like Google, Chrome, or Internet Explorer, or Apple Safari, and so on. We'll learn more about that in the coming weeks. For now, just remember that the first main section of a web page is the head, and that most of the elements in the head are hidden from the general public, unless they use the source code tool. We'll go down, we'll go down, we'll go down quite some bit. So you see there are lots and lots and lots of lines of coding. Don't worry, we won't do anything that crazy. And so on, and we see that it is a very code-heavy website. Nonetheless, it's pretty light because some of those lines of code are very long, yet very easy to render for Google Chrome. And we see at the bottom here that we have a closure tag or closing tag body. So /body. So that means that somewhere in here, and I will search for it because it's pretty long, here. So you see right below our head, so that's the closing tag for our head, we have another tag, and that's an opening tag called body. And there is a class, classes, IDs, and whatnot are CSS selectors when it comes to styling. We'll learn about that in the next module. For now, just remember that you have your head followed by your body. The body of a web page is what the general public gets to see. So everything here, Ottawa updated, the title, the deck, the photo, the text, all of those elements are in the body of the page. And you can scroll down. And it's kind of hard to understand what this is all about. We see that there are photos and whatnot. So I'll show you an easier way to see a particular element on a web page. So I will close this, come back to the main page, and then I will right click again, but this time around I will use inspect. We now have this contextual menu. Two options in the top left corner. Select an element in the page to inspect it, and toggle the device toolbar. We'll start with this one. And at the very top here, you see responsive. This is a nifty tool when doing web development, which allows you to preview what your website will look like on different devices. I can look at the iPhone X. Because CBC has a responsive website, the web page will be displayed properly on the iPhone X. When we talk about a responsive website versus a non-responsive website, what we mean is that a non-responsive website is static. So whether you're looking at it on your cell phone, on an old computer display, or on a 4K monitor, it will look pretty much the same. When a website is coded responsively, it generally means that it has different style sheets for different devices. So that's what it would look like on the iPhone X, and that's what this website or web page would look like on the iPad Pro. And then if I close it, that's what it looks like on a normal HD monitor. Now we will use the other tool called select an element in the page to inspect it. If I hover over different elements, I have different boxes popping up. So we'll come here. That is our headline, which is also an H1 element. So if you look at the purple section of this box in the very top left corner of the contextual box, you see H1. That is the HTML tag. There are different kinds of tags, and most tags come as a pair. So you will have an opening tag and a closing tag. A tag always starts with a lesser than symbol and gets closed off by a greater than symbol. We'll call them brackets, although those are square brackets. Let's call them brackets from now on. It's much easier. And there is also generally in the closing tag a slash. We see it here with the script. We have the opening tag, and then at the end we have script with a slash. And anyway, we will be using brackets to code, and brackets normally adds the closing tag automatically as soon as you introduce an opening tag. So H1 is our headline, and then in blue you see detail headline. That is the CSS element. Again, for this week, don't worry about it. We'll learn later on how to introduce those CSS elements, but it's good to know that you can actually see both the HTML elements and the CSS ones using the inspector tool. And then you have an actual description of the CSS content. By CSS, again, we mean cascading style sheets. So it is the style of your website. As you will see in the assignment for this week, the non-graded assignment, the hands-on activity for this week, your website will be pretty much black and white, except for the photo and the hyperlinks by default. If you want to turn your headline red, you will need to introduce a styling element to it. We'll do that in the next module. It also tells us that our headline has is 720 pixels wide by 72 pixels high. The font is 32 pixels. It is stag medium trebuchet, 16 points of margin or pixels of margin, and so on. Then we have the deck. The deck is in H2. When dealing with headings in HTML or headers, the important thing to know is that there are 6 levels, H1 through H6, and you need to follow the proper hierarchy. So you cannot put H2 then H1. Normally you will have H1. One H1 can include a bunch of H2s. Each H2 can include a bunch of H3 level headers, and so on. Don't start your website with H3 because you think it looks better, because by default H1 will be bigger than H3 and so on. We can style those in CSS. So H2. Then we have a photo, IMG. So whenever we introduce an image, it will be with the IMG tag. So that's good to know. Under our image or photo, we have a fig caption. Fig caption is an HTML tag which will allow us to add a caption to an image. Here we have recent developments. Strong means that it's bolded. And if you look at those elements, they're bolded as well. If I look at the entire box, I have UL. UL stands for unorganized list. So that's how you create a list. You don't start adding bullet points within the body of your text. You add UL tags, and then within those UL tags, you will add a series of LI tags, and those bullets will be added automatically. And we can see it here. Actually, yeah, we see the LI, LI, LI. So UL introduces the box or the list, unorganized list, and then we have 3 elements. So each element is nested between 2 LI tags. If we were to use OL instead of UL, it would be an organized list, meaning that instead of bullet points, we would have 1, 2, and 3. What is the latest is an H2. Here we have a hyperlink, so it's A. I think it stands for anchor from back in the day, but whenever you see A in the code, normally A space href, that's a hyperlink. And then you have paragraphs. So every time you create a new paragraph, you need to start it off with a P, and so long. The video will get introduced as well. And normally, if I go back here, let's say, and click, you see at the bottom, it brought me in the source code to the proper line, and then I can expand. Dr. Vera Etches, Ottawa's medical officer of health, blah, blah, blah. The same text is here. So if you want to see what the code looks like, make sure you reselect before going back. Let's say I want to see the code for this video. It's in blue, so I know it will open the source code. Boom. I can open it up, and I can actually find my video. So here, and the code for those elements will be there. And be careful, some websites like CBC use their own video player, so don't think that you can just copy and paste the code on your website. generally it won't work. If you take a video from YouTube or Facebook using the embed code, that's fine, but you cannot just go to the CBC website or the Radio Canada website or Global. Those websites use their own video player, so you cannot just take and copy and paste the code onto your own website. Generally, it won't work. So that's pretty much it for this introduction to HTML. The next step for you is to complete the first lessons of the Learn HTML course on Codecademy. Fear not if you encounter any technical issues or have questions. Do get in touch with me sooner than later, either via email or better yet, book an appointment during my office hours and I will be able to walk you through. The next videos, once you're done with the Codecademy portion of this module, will show you how to code your first page in HTML and how to upload it to the web using GitHub.